So this is another problem, that is divided the given data into cluster using k-mean algorithm. Use Euclidean distance. So Euclidean distance formula, that is chi minus hi the whole square plus cwi minus wi the whole square. Here I just consider chi equal to height, hi equal to center height, and cwi consider just weight, and wi equal to centered weight. If you feel it is confusing, don't follow these things. You can write here x1 minus x2 the whole square plus yn minus y2 the whole square. Okay. And for clustering, we can consider k also, we can consider c also. Let me show you how you will solve this problem. Here I can use k also and c also. So I just, for clustering, I just use here c. Okay. For c cluster 1 and c2. Okay, at first job we have to make this type of table. Okay, then like this is for cluster, cluster, cluster. So this is cluster 1, put at c1 and c2. Now whatever value are given in table, whatever value, you have to put the first value in first row. Okay, so this is height and this is weight and this centered, okay. So here's 185 and second value is 72, and whatever value is given in row 2, you have to put in row 2 170 and 56. Now it's time to write centered means 185 comma 72, 185 comma 72. This is centered. Okay, can you tell me what will be the centered? Yes, obviously centered will be 170 comma 56. Okay, because we already put row 1 is cluster 1 and row 2 is cluster 2. Okay, so we just write here in cluster 1 we put row 1, so there is 1, and cluster 2 we put here row 2, cluster 2. You have to think about cluster 3, so I just write here row 3. Okay, so row 3, it could be go cluster 1, it could be go cluster 2, we don't know. So let's find out row 3 will go where it will go. Okay, maybe it could be go c1, maybe it could be go c2. Now we have to find the value, which value is minimum, it will go this row. Okay, so how we will find this value? Use this Euclidean distance law, x1 minus x2 y1 minus y2 root over. Okay, so root over here x1, what will be the x1? I am finding row 3. Row 3 is this line. Okay, this line 168 60. So this one will be x1, and in the case of c1 it will be x2, and this one will be y1 and this one will be y2. Okay, so let's write one. Row 3 is 168, the bracket 168 minus plus c1 185 comma the whole square plus row 3 60 minus row c1 72. I think everybody clear about these things. Okay, I am again telling these things. Row 3, we are counting for row 3 because we already put row 1 is cluster 1, row 2 and cluster 2. We just predict it. Okay, so whatever value will be there in table, maybe your case this table will be different. You have to write cluster 1, then you have to write second value cluster 2, then you have to write row 3, and in case of c1 in case of row 3 you have to consider this value 168 minus cluster 1 this value, and 60 minus this value. So at the similar way, we know row 3 168, so 168 minus c2 is 170 whole square plus, we know value is 60, row 3 60, because this is same 60 minus what will value 56 whole square. Okay, So after calculating this value, final output will be 20.8, and this case final output will be 4.47. Among these two value, C2 is minimum. Okay, this one is minimum. So we can write here 4.47 is less than 20.8. So the data point row 3, okay, store in cluster C2. So in C2 is minimum, that's why this data point will be stored as C2. Now we have to update the value of C2. We don't have to do anything in C1 because C1 is large. Okay, now we have to update data point C2 because C2 already stored. So we can write here C3. Okay, row 3 will be go C2 because C2 is minimum. So we have to update the value of C2. How we can update? For updating the value, we have to add these two value and these two value and divided by 2. Okay, C2 is less than, that's why this value, I mean row value, is stored there, and we have to update C2 because it's minimum. You understand? Every time which one will be minimum, that value will store there C2, and these two value will be add. So our new value will be C2 will be bracket 168 plus 170 by 2. Okay, then 60 plus 56 by 2. So value will be 169,58. We already got the value for C2. New update C2 value is 169,58. Okay, now we have to put this value in this table. Okay, let's draw a new table and put this value in C2. Then again we have to find for row 4. Here we already make a new table, and we have to update only C2 value. We already get the value from there, 169 and 58 C2. Okay, so we write C1 is, it will be similar, C1 185 72, and the centered will be 185, 72. So we got our new C2, that is 169 and 58. So centered will be 169, 58. Okay, we take this value C2 from there. Now we already check for row 3. Row 3 is done. Now we have to check for row 4. So I'm writing here row 4. Row 4. Now row 4 can be stored in C1 and C2. Let's check. Row 4, it could be stored in C1, it could be stored C2. Again we have to find the distance between row 4 to C1. So row 4 is value is 179. Okay, let's 179 minus C1, 185 whole square plus weight is 68. So 68 minus 72. 68 minus 72 whole square. In case of C2, 4 is 179, so 179 minus C2 169 whole square plus we know this value is 68, so 68 minus 58 value is 7.21 and this one is 14.14. So among these two value C1 is minimum. Okay, this one is minimum. Now we can write here 7.21 is, we can write this way, is less than 14.14. So the data point will store in minimum is C1. Okay, the data point is stored in C1. 4 will be stored in C1. So this is C1. Here 4 will be stored here. And now we have to update the value of C1 because C1 is less minimum. How we can update the value C1? So we write here C1 will be 179. You have to just plus 179 plus 185 by 2, comma, then this 68 plus 72 by 2. So new value is 179 plus 185. Okay, 182, comma, this for 70. Now we have to make again a table and we have to put this value in C1 because C1 is minimum. So let's make this table there also. So we already draw the table. So C1 will be changed because that is minimum and C2 will be same. So we put here C2 previous value 169 comma 58. Center will be 169 comma 58. And cluster 1, we know the new value of cluster 1 is 182 comma 70, 182 comma 70. Okay, now we have to check for row 5. Okay, row 5, it could be go C1, it could be go C2. Let's check again. Row 5 is value 182 for height, 72 for weight. So 182 minus C1, 182 plus and 72 minus 70 whole square. In case of C2, 182 minus 169 plus 72 minus value is 58. Okay, so the value will be, this one is 2 and this value is 19.10 maybe. So again C1 is minimum, so we have to put C1 value row 5 in C1. Okay, row 5 goes on C1, so C1 row 5 goes on C1 5. Now we have to update the C1 because C1 value is minimum. Okay, so we can write here the C2 is minimum, then this one we can write the same things, data point is still on C1, we can write here. Okay, let's write here 2 is less than 19.10. So the data point stored in C1. Now we got row 5 stored on C1. Now we have to update the value of C1. Okay, how to update? So C1 new value will be this was our C1 182 plus 182 182 plus 182 by 2, this will be 182, and 722 minus 70 by 2, it will be 182 comma 71. We got our new C1 values. Now we have to update this table. Okay, we have to update this table with C1 new values. Let me draw the table and update the value. So from previous one, we know the value of C2 and we update the value of C1. So C1 new value is 182 and 71, and our previous table we got the C2 value is 169 and 58, and row 5 will be stored on C1 because C1 is minimum. Okay, we just write here row 5. Okay, so now we write the centered will be 182 comma 71, and cluster will be 169 comma 58. We already find for row 5. Now our target is row 6. Row 6, it could be go in C1, it could be go C2. Let's find out. Root over row 6 value is 188. Okay, so 188 minus C1 is 182 whole square plus it is 77 minus C1 is 71 root over. So we know the value of row 3, sorry, is row 6, 188 171. This is value is there. So 188 minus, we know the C2 value is 169 this is 169 plus 77 minus value is 58 whole square. So the value is for row 6 is 36, sorry 36, this is 36. Okay, value is 8.48, and this value is 38 maybe. This value is 38. So again C1 is minimum. Okay, so here we can write this way, like C1 equal to 8.48 is minimum, then C2 equal to 38. I just writing this thing, but you can write only C1 is greater than C2, or you can write that 8.48 is greater than 31. So the data point store in C1 because C1 is C1. So row 6 will be go on C1. So let's get the cluster. C1 is 1, 4, 5 and 6. C2 is 2 and 3. So you can make clustering like for this way. This is maybe this is C1 cluster. Okay, and this is C1 cluster and this is C2 cluster. C2 cluster. So we know the value is here. C1 is 1 4 5 and 6. 1 4 5 and 6, and in C2 we will 2 and 3. 2 and 3 answer.